What's up guys, it's Kyra and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I am back with another Makeup for Beginners video. You know, a part of my Makeup for Beginners series. You guys know I have done, I've done my foundation routine, how to pick your foundation shade, shade match, how to test it out, and how to apply it. I've also done primer, all about primer, you know, what primer to use, so on and so forth. You guys know in my typical foundation routine, I'll do primer first, or, you know, moisturizer slash sunscreen, and then primer, and then foundation, and then typically concealer. It's kind of how I do it in my normal routine. So I figured that concealer would be the next best topic to bring to you guys. So this one honestly isn't going to be too long because I feel like concealer is pretty straightforward. It's all about just knowing where to place it, what shade to use, and knowing how to blend it out. It's literally those three things. It's super simple and super easy, and once you get it down, you got it. So the first topic is going to be what concealer shade to pick to go with your complexion. So you guys know that I typically kind of stay within the same general concealer family. As I mentioned before in my foundation video, I know that I have a little bit more golden and yellow undertones in my skin. So I typically like to pick yellow or golden toned concealers just to help coordinate with the foundation. I would never do like a red undertone concealer with a yellow undertoned foundation. That's just a disaster waiting to happen. So whenever you're picking your concealer shade, you want to stay within the same general family as the foundation. So for example, for today's look, I used the Too Faced Born This Way foundation in the shade Maple. Okay, so here's Maple, and as you can see, Maple is in that golden family, right? It's not warm, it's not too red, not too orange, not too cool either. It's right in that golden family. So if I were to be wearing this shade, then as I mentioned, I would want to pick a yellow or a golden undertone concealer. The one that I typically use with my Too Faced Born This Way foundation is the Too Faced Born This Way concealer, and I wear the shade Warm Sand. So you see how we have, again, we have Maple here. So Warm Tan, for example, is about 2 shades lighter than my skin tone. It's not too bright, not too light, and it still stays within that same general yellow golden undertone family. I don't really go that light. You guys know I typically do not go that light unless I am intentionally creating a look that requires a really bright highlight, which is not often. Here's some other ones that I would use from different brands. So here's the Too Faced one, Warm Sand, and here is the Fenty Beauty one, and this is the shade 350. So we have Maple, we have Warm Sand, and then we have the Fenty Beauty one. So see how the Fenty and the Too Faced concealers are pretty much the same shade, same family. They're, you know, slight variations as far as tone goes, but they're in the same general family. And that's typically what I look for whenever I'm looking at concealers from different brands. So like one that I would not use because it's too light is this one here from Laura Mercier. So it's the Laura Mercier Flawless Fusion Ultra Longwear Concealer. I actually do really like the concealer. It's just that this shade here is extremely too light. Like, I don't even know why I even have it. But it's the shade 2W. And even just looking in the jar, you can kind of tell that it's way too far off. Like, look, here's the Fenty, and here's the Laura Mercier. That is the Laura Mercier, and that is obviously way too light for my skin tone. And the only reason why I keep this one is because I will use it to brighten up a concealer if I do want a brighter highlight. Again, that's not often at all, but if I ever want to really brighten up and waken up the under eye area, I'll go over my normal concealer with a little hint of the Laura Mercier just to really brighten it up. So those are my tips as far as picking concealer. As you can see, we'll do something definitely in this family here. And I'll actually just go ahead and use the Too Faced Born This Way concealer for today's demo. We are pretty much all primed and set for today's concealer. I've already done a primer video as well as a foundation video, so I will leave that down below. But we're all set and ready to go for foundation. So today's focus is going to be more so on the correct concealer placement and also how to prevent your concealer from creasing. Now, I want to just quickly note that if you have wrinkles or lines under your eyes, there is no way to 100% prevent your concealer from creasing. Which, granted, there's nothing wrong with that. I thought society sort of wired us to think that everything has to be super flawless. Like, you guys, y'all know I have laugh lines, and even though I hate them, I cannot stand them, But I know and accept that whenever I wear foundation and I wear makeup, it's going to crease. And as I mentioned in my foundation video, makeup lies and sits on top of your skin texture. Makeup is just makeup. It's not a miracle worker. So if you have lines and texture and wrinkles, no matter what, at some point throughout the day, your makeup will settle into those fine lines. So for me, I don't really suffer. Honestly, I really don't suffer from under eye bags or creases. I do have slight creasing under here, like right up there near my lower lash line. It's there. Even whenever I'm sitting here like this, it's creased up. I can't help it. So I will likely get some sort of light creasing in that area, but I'm going to show you guys how to prevent it from getting worse. And first going in, I'm going to show you guys where I actually typically place the concealer. Okay, now whenever you are highlighting the skin, the whole point is that the highlight is where you want to attract light to, okay? So think about my face right now, okay? Looking in the monitor, I can see right now that the light is attracted here. You see how there's those light spots there? Okay. I see a little bit of light here on the top of the nose. Okay. And then I see light here under my eyes, there on my chin. And basically what that means is that those are the areas that those are the areas the light is naturally attracted to. Okay. Now, if you look on the areas that are naturally shadowed or contoured, you'll see here on the sides of my nose, those have natural shadows. My forehead along here has natural shadow. And then here along my cheeks is a natural shadow. You guys see that? But it's all about figuring out where the light naturally hits, because that's where you want to naturally highlight and basically bring attention to those areas. So I brought you guys in closer so you can get a really good idea of where I'm placing the product and how I'm going to blend it out. So going back in with the Too Faced Born This Way concealer, I'm going to go ahead and apply it first under my eyes, okay? So I'm going to apply it right here in this general area. So now, one thing you'll notice that I do not do whenever I'm applying concealer is I don't typically bring it out like past the tail end of my brow, and I typically don't drag it down past my nostril. And the reason why is because whenever we go in and we actually blend it out, you want to have space for that concealer to blend out into, okay? If I were to drag the concealer down further or bring it out further, then whenever I'm blending it out per se, it'll be all out here and all down there, which will actually make our cheeks look a lot bigger and fuller. And the whole point of hiding contouring is to bring back the shape and the dimension to your face. You don't want to alter it, making it look bigger. You know, you want to really bring back your natural face shape. So I'm going to actually do one side of don't and one side of do, because I feel like that would be a lot more beneficial for you guys. So here's the do side again. So just imagine a triangle that goes from your nostril up to the tail of your brow. Okay, that's the triangle you want to keep it within. I also do like to bring the concealer just a little bit on the side of the nose. And the reason why is because if you bring it up a little bit on the side of the nose, it actually creates a natural contour, which will allow you to know where to contour later on. I do like a little bit on my cupid's bow area, which is this area right here. Cupid's bow is the part here on your lip, that little dip, that's the cupid's bow. And I do like a little bit here on the cupid's bow just to brighten up and bring some lightness to the center of my face. Same thing down here on my chin. And I only keep it like right there at the tip of my chin. I don't put concealer all over because that gets crazy. But like right here at the center point of my chin. Okay, and then of course on my forehead. Now this is where it's all personal preference. So you guys see I obviously have a larger forehead, right? So the larger the forehead, the less you want to highlight and the more you want to contour, okay? The smaller the forehead, the more you want to highlight and the less you want to contour. So I have a larger forehead. So for me, I apply just a little bit of highlight right here in the center just to, again, add some sort of brightness and highlight there because that is a normal or a natural highlight area. but I actually tend to contour a bit more, which you guys will see in a separate video. I do tend to contour a bit more, and I actually bring my contour in towards my forehead a little bit more. But if I had a smaller forehead, I could actually apply more highlight to, again, attract more light to. And I would lightly contour, like I wouldn't apply very much at all, just because I don't want my forehead to look even smaller when I already have a small forehead. And then lastly, you cannot forget the nose. And whenever I apply highlight on my nose, I only apply it right on the bridge of my nose. And that is the bridge. So again, the bridge, you guys, is really important. The bridge is just the very tip-top point, like the very tip-top point of the nose. And you only want to apply there because if you make a wide line, or if you start to bring it onto the sides of the nose, it actually makes your nose look a lot wider and larger. And that's what we don't want to do. For my don't side, I'm going to take this, and you'll see me go down past my nostril and out onto my cheek, okay? So you see how I went ahead and applied the concealer all the way on the side? And I even went as far as to go ahead and actually add concealer down here on my chin, just to show you guys what will happen if you apply way too much. Same thing down here on the Cupid's bow area. I actually went ahead and applied this all the way down here, and also on the forehead, just because I want you guys to really see what happens whenever you apply way too much. So imagine on the forehead, even though I do have a large forehead, imagine if I had applied concealer all the way up here. Just wait to see what will happen. So taking my beauty blender, which you always want to use a damp beauty blender to blend out your concealer. That's super duper important. Don't use a dry, y'all. You want to use your beauty sponge or beauty blender damp. So just taking it and just blending this out. Now, as far as blending goes, this is actually pretty simple. Like, there's not really much to explain when it comes to using a beauty blender, but it's all about using light pouncing motions, like light patting motions, to really blend out that product. Because essentially what you want to do is, you guys know whenever I'm applying makeup, I always talk about the importance of no harsh lines. It's so important. You don't want any harsh lines anywhere, okay? So taking this and just lightly pouncing that product out, and the focus should be along, okay, so here's the harsh line. That's where the focus should be, because you want to blend out that line like I did here to where you don't see any harsh line any longer. You want it to really naturally diffuse between the highlight to the contour. So same thing down here. I'm going to take that same sponge, and this is the do side, so just pouncing it in this area. And you see how once I kind of pounce it around in that area, how not only has that line diminished, like you don't see that harsh line anymore, but you see how it brings like a natural highlight to just the point of my chin? That is exactly what we want, right? All right, so there's our do side. And I'm gonna do the forehead just to kind of show you guys what happens whenever you keep the forehead highlight kind of right in this area. But you see how even this right there, how it gives your forehead a nice natural highlight, but it's not too crazy, it's not too light. It doesn't look too much, right? And then lastly, the nose highlight, I'm going to take my beauty blender, actually squeeze it together to create a little bit of a thinner line. And then take the squeeze part and just go along the bridge of my nose. And whenever I'm blending out the nose highlight, I just keep the beauty blender right on the top of the nose. I never bring it to the side because I don't want to transfer the concealer and the product to the side of the nose. So you see how right here, how because we bought concealer a little bit on the side of the nose, like right along there, and also have the line of concealer down the top of the nose, how we have created a natural contour right there. You guys see that? So that's what we call a natural contour. And then lastly, for the do, we're going to go ahead and just blend out our Cupid's bow highlight. So this is how your face should look naturally once you blended out your concealer. If you place it properly, then this is essentially how it should look. So that's the proper way to highlight. So imagine if we did it this way. So just even for an example, if we took our forehead highlight and blended this out, now I'm going all up into my hairline. I'm basically just making my forehead look and appear so much larger. So even this look right here, you kind of see how my highlight here is actually coming out into my hairline and my forehead. So my forehead actually looks much, much bigger. And then same thing with the Beauty Blender. Gonna take this and not only blend it outwards this way, but actually blend it onto my nose, okay? To show you guys what happens if you do it this way. So I'm taking it and blending this actually onto my nose, on the sides and the top of my nose, and also blending this outwards. So you see how we have a completely different face shape on this side versus this side. So you see how here on this side, our highlight kind of stayed right under the eye area and how it blends flawlessly from the light to dark, which is our foundation. However, over here, we've applied so much, we've brought it so far down that our cheek now looks like it comes all the way down here. And my contour looks like it should be down here. You guys see that? You guys see that line? So like right now, my cheek looks so much bigger and fuller than on my do side. And actually blending this side out, same thing, making our chin look much, much larger, and even blending this kind of down onto the lower jawline area. So you guys see the difference? Because like on this side here, there's no depth, there's no dimension, there's none of that natural gradient fade from the highlight to the foundation. It's just all light. So we basically missed the mark. Whereas on this side, you can still see your natural face shape. It's so important to figure out where to properly place and how to properly blend out your concealer. The last step, of course, is to set the concealer. So there's always one trick that I typically use, and that is to always look up, blend out my creases, and then immediately set. Okay, so you see how here under my eye, see those creases? Right there. So that's a natural crease from my natural crease under my eye. I mentioned that I do have creases right in there. It's just natural, it's normal, I can't help it. As I'm going ahead and blending out everywhere else, the concealer is just sitting there and it's re-creasing back up. I'll actually take the same Beauty Blender and re-blend it back out. Keep looking up, dip it in the powder, and then reset. Because whenever you look up, first of all, looking up helps to elongate the skin, so it'll help to not let it crease. And then if you're looking up as it's not creasing, it allows you to set that area before it creases again. Does it make sense? I will take my powder, and for under the eye area, I typically will just use a translucent powder. Now I can get into a whole nother topic about translucent versus banana. It all depends on the look that you want, so it's not really a point in making a video about it because it's all dependent on the look that you want. I personally prefer translucent because I prefer powders that do not have a color or a tint to it. In my opinion, whenever you apply the concealer onto your face, you're applying that concealer because of that color. So for me, like, it doesn't make sense to apply concealer on top of your face, but then go in with another yellow powder to kind of help cancel and brighten it up. It's just like, just get the correct concealer shade to begin with, and then go in and set it with a translucent or colorless powder to just set it. And again, what I do is after I have blended out everything else, before I go in and set, I'll take my same damp beauty sponge, I'll look up, and I'll blend out that area. So what this does is whenever I'm looking up, again, my skin is stretched, needs to elongate it so it's not creasing. It's not sitting there and creasing. And I'll take that same sponge, take the pointy end, and blend out that area so it's not creasing. And basically doing this is blending out those creases as if your skin does not have natural creasing or natural wrinkles. Makes sense? So if it's stretched out, the wrinkles aren't there. So I'm blending it out as if I have no wrinkles, dipping it, still looking up, you guys, because you don't want to look down again. Because once you look down, it's going to crease. So still looking up, taking my beauty sponge in that powder, getting some powder on there, and then just setting right under there, like so. And essentially what it does, it's allowing that concealer to blend out as if you don't have wrinkles. And then once you set it, you're setting, again, it as if you don't have wrinkles. So once you look back down, yes, I do have natural wrinkles. I mean, like, again, they're natural wrinkles. So yes, I do have that natural wrinkle still there. But you see how under here, how there's no longer any creasing. This hasn't been set yet, but you see how you see the creasing there? So if I had just went in with the sponge and some powder and just set just like that, actually, which I will do in a second to show you guys exactly why it's not a good thing to do. But if I had just did that, it would set just like this. This has been my go-to trick for years now. I do it on my clients and it makes such a huge difference. So let's just say that I go in with my beauty blender and some powder, and you see how we have multiple crease lines over here, you guys. And we went in straight with powder and we set this. Look what happens. You see the difference. So over here, I didn't look up or anything. I just went in and immediately set those crease lines. And you see how we still have all those lines there. So see how here, how it's practically no crease lines at all. There's very, very slight ones like up near the lash line, but they're very, 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 very minimal. Over here, however, we didn't do that trick. So now there's nothing but crease lines all under my eye. And that could have been easily avoided. And all I'm doing whenever I'm setting those areas is just taking a beauty blender and that same powder and just setting that concealer. Now, I'm going to do the exact same thing with my lash lines. You guys know I have them here. Looking this way, I take my tongue and just stretch out the skin, because again, the whole point is to stretch out the skin, blend it out, and then immediately set. Taking my tongue, stretching it out, blending it out. And then setting it. And basically what that does is, again, it helps to set it as if that fine line right there. Now, will it completely prevent my lash lines from peeping through? No, it won't, because it's, again, it's a natural fine line. So it will crease, but it does help to minimize the creasing. So we're here, gonna just go ahead and set it without even doing the other trick. And y'all already know what's gonna happen. So that is how you set your concealers. So same thing with the bridge of the nose, just pinching the top part like we did when we were blending it out, and just drag a line there to set that concealer on the top of the nose. And then same thing here. And don't forget that we actually did a whole lot more over here. So I'm going to take it and apply the powder all over wherever we applied the highlight or the concealer on this side to show you guys the difference. And also you can't forget to go down here because we did apply the concealer all the way. And that is typically how I apply, blend out, and set my concealer. So what I'll do is, depending on how I'm feeling, I may bake for a little bit longer. I may do my face first and then bake and then do my eyes and then wipe it away. Just depends on what I'm doing. But if it was more of an everyday look, then I won't bake for that long. I'll just take a fluffy brush and just blend everything out. And just even from looking in the mirror, I can already tell a huge difference between my don't side and my do side. Because again, here under the eyes, all I see is wrinkles under there. Like, that's literally all I see. Whereas here, I hardly have any. So that makes, you guys see how it even ages you a little bit more? Like, just by not blending it out first, it actually ages you. It makes you look a lot more tired, in my opinion. So that's why this is a huge, huge, huge tip. But you guys see, it's like night and day. Even same thing with my lash lines down here. Like over here, I can see it a little bit more than I can on this side. So that's something as well. Even on my forehead, you guys see how this one looks a lot larger and a lot bigger as opposed to on this side where we still had that natural contour there. Again, a huge, huge, huge difference. And let's not forget just the way our overall face shape looks on the do side and the don't side. So over here, we still look nice and snatched and still look kind of, you know, it didn't really alter our face shape at all. It actually brought back in that natural depth and dimension. Whereas this side, my cheeks look a lot larger. My chin looks bigger on this side. It just looks a lot more accentuated, and that's exactly what we don't want to happen. So that's why it's so important to know the proper placement, the proper way to blend, and the proper way to set when it comes to your concealer. So hope you guys enjoyed this Makeup for Beginners concealer edition video. If you guys did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye guys.